What's up? My name is Joey, and I am the founder of Universal CPA Review. So you just failed the audit exam. What can I say? That's a bummer. Well, forget about it, because in this video, we're going to cover everything you need to know to retake your Audit CPA exam section in just 30 days. And if you just can't get enough of all this helpful CPA exam content, then you could join our free CPA exam retake strategies Facebook group by clicking on the link in the description of this video. From here, you could download all of our CPA exam retake guides. You could join a community where other CPA exam candidates are gearing up for their retake, and you can hear some of their stories and understand what strategies are working for them. You can also download all of our CPA exam retake videos to help you gear up and understand where to focus your attention when studying for that retake CPA exam section. So let's dive into it. So we're going to dive right into Universal CPA Review's Audit CPA Exam 30-Day Retake Game Plan. And here we have strategically placed certain modules to be studied for in a specific order based on score weight, content volume, and difficulty. So when studying for audit, one of the most important factors is understanding the logic and intuition behind the actual flow of the audit engagement. All right, we need to know what the auditor's doing, why they're doing it, and when they're doing it. And unless you've been an auditor for 20 plus years, this is something that is a little bit more tricky than it sounds. Okay, it's easy to be learning this stuff and think, wait a minute, where am I in the flow of the audit engagement? You'll need to remind yourself, is what I'm learning risk assessment versus testing internal controls versus substantive testing and obtaining actual audit evidence? Many procedures sound like they are the same. So it's easy to get confused and lose track of where you are in the audit engagement. So in the first 7 days, your focus is going to heavily be on conceptual topics that have to do with understanding various audit frameworks and different types of audit engagements. So on day 1, we're going to start by going through the professional standards module, which has a lot to do with understanding the standard setting bodies. These guys set the rules and guidance that auditors must follow. You're also going to learn different language that needs to be used within the audit report. And while professional standards is a quick and easy module, it's going to still be important, and it could be very easy points. So it's important to take it seriously, because this is where we're learning to walk before we learn to run. Without understanding the different professional standards, it's going to be really challenging to grasp the different audit procedures for an issuer versus a non-issuer. Okay, so this module has less weight, but it's still potentially easy points on the exam. Content volume is relatively small, and it's not that difficult compared to some of the more challenging topics that you're going to see throughout this exam. That's why we only suggest that you either watch the video lectures as a refresher and or complete 20 plus multiple choice practice questions. And it's important to keep in mind that when you go through the multiple choice practice questions, to watch the side-by-side video explanations, especially on the more challenging questions. Okay, so sticking within day 1, we're also going to place a little bit more weight into ethics, independence, and professional conduct. All right, so here we're going to be talking about the Code of Professional Conduct, which is the first of the 3 frameworks that you need to be familiar with. And the Code of Professional Conduct has specifically to do with the rules for the audit professional. So this is something that the exam can ask you a fair amount of questions related to things like threats to the auditor's independence and the different scenarios that might be inclusive of that. All right, so this module has a similar level of weight placed on it, but it does have more content volume to learn, and it is a little bit more challenging than the professional standards module. So that's why it's important to watch the video lectures, which are more time consuming than professional standards. And if you feel confident on this topic from studying from your previous exam, you can also skip the video lectures and complete the multiple choice practice questions. All right, but we did include a task-based simulation that you should take a look at, because this is a good opportunity to think critically and navigate different scenarios that can be tested. All right, but overall, this is a bigger module with more content volume and is a little bit more challenging, but can still be completed within day 1 when studying for the first 2 modules, including professional standards. Day 2 is going to cover 2 different modules, and one of them is an overview module. So the first module has to do with one of the 3 frameworks. and you need to be aware of a firm's system of quality control. And remember, there are 3 frameworks, and a firm system of quality control focuses specifically on the audit firm itself, which is different from the Code of Professional Conduct framework that is focused on the rules for the audit professional. So there's a fair amount of content volume to remember, and this does have a decent amount of weight that is being allocated to it. So it's important to know, and this is one topic that is easy to try to memorize your way through, but you have to try to avoid that at all costs. It's important to not just memorize, but also understand the why. Okay, so you need to know the different elements of quality control, but also what specific rules fall within those elements. So here's what we're going to suggest. We suggest that you watch all the video lectures, complete all the multiple choice practice questions, and watch as many of those side-by-side video explanations as possible. We also have a task-based simulation that is worth going through, and it's worth watching that side-by-side video explanation here as well. Okay, and the next module within day 2 is the overview of the audit engagement. And this is an overview module, like we said. So here, you don't need to do too much. We're just learning the flow of the audit engagement, and we have a few high-level multiple choice practice questions related to that. Okay, so you can either rewatch those video lectures here or complete the multiple choice practice questions. So moving right into day 3, we have integrated audits and ethical requirements in audit engagements. So integrated audits are a little bit more time-consuming, and it's important to know integrated audits on a conceptual level and certain communications that are being made related to deficiencies found in that integrated audit. Remember, integrated audits are required for issuers, and they're going to include a report associated with the auditor opining on the client's system of internal controls. So some important stuff here to know, and these can also be very easy points on the exam. All right, so we're going to suggest that you watch all the video lectures and or complete all multiple choice practice questions and try to knock out that integrated audit simulation. Now, the ethical requirements in audit engagement module is short and sweet. So here, not as much weight and not as difficult, nor does it have as much content volume. So simply watching all the lectures and or completing the questions is enough. In day 4, we're diving into the actual beginning stages of the audit engagement. Okay, so here we're at the starting point when thinking about the flow of the audit engagement. So we've got to know the terms of the engagement, and we're also going to fire up the auditor's planning of the audit engagement and auditor documentation. Okay, so when thinking about the terms of the audit engagement, this is one of those modules that has a lot of context, and we need to remember that context. So another very conceptual module, and it's about finding little ways to remember what is included in that engagement letter. We want you to watch all the video lectures, and we only have a few multiple choice practice questions, so it's worth going through all of them, and also knock out that simulation with the side-by-side video explanation. So diving right into planning the engagement. This can feel blended in with a lot of the terms used throughout the audit. So this is the beginning stage of the audit. After we've accepted the terms of the engagement, we can now plan the audit engagement. All right, so we've already signed off on the engagement letter at this point. So this is where we're going to introduce the nature, the extent, and the timing of the audit engagement. So going through those videos to refresh your memory on why the nature, extent, and timing is important and why those terms are important for the auditor throughout this process. And this time, I want you to think about the nature, extent, and timing and how they impact the initial planning. And then finally, we have requirements for audit documentation. All right, so another context-heavy module. And this talks about what the auditor should document throughout the audit engagement. Okay, so this is another short and sweet module. And it's similar to the terms of the engagement in that we need to remember the different context associated with it. All right, so there's not a lot of content volume. So you can get through those pretty quickly. And if you feel confident in audit documentation, you can also just knock out the practice questions, but try to get in that simulation afterwards if you can. In day 5, we're diving into the third framework, right? Remember, we talked about the Code of Professional Conduct, which has to do with the audit professional. We've gotten through quality control standards, which has to do with the audit firm. And now we're going to wrap up our big 3 frameworks by understanding an entity's internal controls. So this is going to be related to the COSO framework. All right, so conceptual module, like we said, and we ask that you watch the video lectures and or complete the multiple choice practice questions here. And then we're going to wrap up day 5 by going through IT audits. All right, so here we have a nuanced module that is short and sweet, and we're going to go through the video lectures and we're going to go ahead and complete those practice questions. So moving into day 6, this is our math intensive module. All right, so we've gone through a lot of the conceptual stuff, but now we're going to go through financial ratios. All right, so if you've taken the FAR exam or the BAR exam, you are familiar with financial ratios at this point. And this is going to be important for testing analytical procedures, which you might see in a simulation, or when navigating through source documentation such as financial statements. So we have a sim here that we want you to go through as well after you've rewatched the lectures and or completed the multiple choice practice questions. And then in day 6, we're going to wrap it all up by also understanding the application of the work of specialists and internal auditors. Right, so this is another miscellaneous topic, but easy points if you can know the 2 or 3 types of questions that they can ask. So watch those video lectures and or complete the questions. No simulation here. All right, so now we've gotten through week 1, and now it's important to include some spaced repetition. So one of the key strategies in studying for your retake audit exam is to include spaced repetition techniques as you're studying. This time around, it's important to emphasize that spaced repetition. So for those of you who are unfamiliar with spaced repetition, this is a study technique that involves reviewing information at increasing intervals over time. It's based on the idea that reviewing information at spaced intervals helps you retain it in long-term memory. So regardless of the CPA exam section that you're studying, spaced repetition is always key. And now that you have completed the first 2 chapters, it's a great opportunity to take a step back and refresh everything that you've learned up to this point. So by selecting the progress tests for multiple choice practice questions or task-based simulations, you can choose the different chapters and modules that are going to be covered up to this point. And we ask that you select 50 multiple choice practice questions, which is a good amount for refreshing what it is you've learned. And if you get a question wrong, or maybe you even get it right, don't hesitate to watch that video explanation to learn the why. Okay, so we're still in the learning phase and the solidifying our understanding phase. So once you've completed your multiple choice practice questions for your progress test, then go ahead and select the progress test associated with task-based simulations. And here, just simply select chapters 1 and 2 and all the modules within them. And this is going to give you 2 to 3 random simulations from everything up to this point.